This conference will now be recorded.
Delay. So we're going to jump right from here. We're going to jump into the presentation from Mike Espiritu with the Roswell Chaves County Economic Development. Bear with me, and we'll see if we can get that all to work.
My name is Mike Espiritu. I'm the president of Roswell Chaves County Economic Development Corporation. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are. Well, one, we're a not-for-profit organization that receives funding from both the city and the county and our members. We have a 25-member board of directors comprised of senior business leaders and elected officials. Our mission is to lead through collaborative actions which advances economic opportunity for Chaves County by actively promoting our regional assets and jobs.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Morris. I'm your community development director for the city of Roswell. Just want to talk a little bit about closed building permit activity over the last year, starting about January. It has been a strange year, but the number.
Can I get
My
that?
name is Mike Espiritu. I'm the president of Roswell Chaves County Economic Development Corporation.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Morris. I'm your community development director for the city of Roswell. Just want to talk a little bit about the building permit activity over the last year, starting about January. It has been a strange year.
Hi, my name is Mike Espiritu. I'm the president of Roswell Chaves County Economic Development Corporation. Let me tell you a little bit about who we are. Well, one, we're a not-for-profit organization that receives funding from both the city and the county and our members. We have a 25-member board of directors comprised of senior business leaders and elected officials. Our mission is to lead through collaborative actions which advances economic opportunity for Chaves County by actively promoting our regional assets that create jobs and creates opportunities for potential businesses. Our main mission is to create jobs, and we have, as a result, we have several different target sectors that we're very involved in. Number one, of course, is aviation and aerospace. It makes sense in Roswell with the wonderful airport we have south. The Roswell Air Center, with its enormous parking, the 13,000-foot runways, make it very attractive to help lure the prospects coming into our community and create jobs. Aviation jobs generally pay very well. Requires skilled workers, requires people and their families to relocate here. And we're excited about the companies that are already committed to Roswell Chaves County. As we know, besides aviation, Chaves County and Roswell is very known for agriculture. And with foods that earmark here, we have enormous amount of dairies in the area. We have lawn orchards. We have the ability to capture any of the agricultural areas, maybe find those value-added agricultural opportunities and businesses located here. And it could be almost anything. So we are anxious as one of our target markets to help attract those type of companies to Roswell Chaves County. Oil and gas, although we're not putting wells right outside the City Hall, on the edge, the gateway I call it to the Permian Basin, we are the place where a lot of people that work in that industry live. And some have their corporate headquarters here. We're a great location. Our cost of living is good. You know what that is. We have great talent here. We have a wonderful growing community, a lot of wonderful retail amenities and medical and educational opportunities, as well as recreational things for people. So Roswell and Chaves County has really centered itself and really positioned itself to attract more opportunities. And that's why the EDC is thrilled about helping attract new companies to come here to create jobs. We know that renewable energy isn't considered one of the best fields to be in, especially when we live in oil and gas, areas like we do. But it has been varied because we do have a lot of opportunity. So let me explain why it's important to think about renewable energy in Roswell Chaves County. Because not only do they have jobs in construction with towers and solar fields and things of that nature, and yes, they don't create a lot of jobs after initial construction. However, they do create more jobs in the retrofit, the repair, the overhaul of all those types of equipment that requires, yes, skilled workers. We're thrilled to work with our community college, Eastern New Mexico here in Roswell, who helps create programs and certification opportunities for people to create that skilled workforce that we need. We've embarked, the CDAS, that is, embarked on a journey with our public schools, not only in Roswell, but in the Valley. And what that journey is all about is creating a career technical education program where young people in high school can understand the value of certain careers and maybe transform them into those and stay here in our community and become great workers, raise their families, but they stay here with their families as well. And they have more likely to stay here for a very long time. Career Education, or CT, you'll hear more about that. We're very excited about that. Unfortunately, it's kind of put the brakes on a little bit, but we're still moving forward. And the last thing I want to share with you is about apprenticeship programs with the State Department of Workforce Connections. We are working with Alex on how we create apprenticeship programs for youth in high schools and post high school to work with companies that need a skilled workforce and how they can learn the trade while still going to school, and then on graduation can move right into their and get great jobs and pay very well. So we're very busy with workforce development, very busy with education, very busy with attracting business. But we're also very involved with helping people. It's so important that people realize that we, the business community, value the people that have sacrificed to create jobs already, that already needed payroll, build buildings, contribute to the infrastructure, and made a presence in Roswell and Chaves County already, because we go out and visit our local business people. And what we're trying to achieve is how to best connect the resources that they could possibly use so they grow as well, create more jobs, maybe more dollars invested in our local economy so we can be a better, stronger Roswell and Chaves County. But as you know, this past few months we've been inundated by the coronavirus. It's taken a front seat to our normal work in business attraction. What we've become as the EDC is to be a clearinghouse for the coronavirus information, resources for local business and people. But today, I want to talk a little bit about, it's all about helping local businesses recover from the cost of the pandemic. As you may have heard, there was $50 million provided to the state to provide relief to small business. And we, back in the end of July, we, the EDC, went out and visited a lot of local business people. And we talked to them about some of their needs. And at that time, we learned that there is a strong need for providing an application process for the funds that we hope to receive from the state grant opportunity. We wanted to ask local businesses the things that we thought the state would ask us for, and we did a pretty good job of that. Some of the expenses that are eligible under this program include non-owner employee payroll, rent, scheduled mortgage payments, insurance, utilities, marketing, and also help to reconfigure the physical space of the business as things have changed. Maybe installing access barriers and the prices and the cost for doing that, purchasing technology to facilitate the normal work and for your workers as well. And also PPE, which is so important to make sure everyone is protected in this area. If your business had to install or construct temporary structures to help mitigate the spread of COVID-19, they're also considered a government expense. We received well over 100 applications. We anticipate that we'll receive the funding and be able to distribute that funding in collaboration with both the city and the county for our businesses in this region. Just today, we met at City Hall with city and county officials and discussed how we can apply grant funding to our local small businesses. What we've learned is the information we've asked has been very fruitful in determining what our needs are for our However, we need a few more items to validate the information that some companies have already provided. Everyone that's applied so far at EDC, we will take these applications and we'll be reaching out to you in the next several days. We will require some additional information as the state needs. And hopefully, within just a matter of a few weeks, you'll be awarded those funds to help to create this your business. Chavis County received $337,750 from local business. In the city, we received $1.3 million. We are confident that we can help a lot of businesses that have suffered through this difficult time. All we need is additional information, and then we'll put those applications together, forward to the city and the county, and then to the state for the funding. We actually got 2 phases. The state has asked us to provide information for the last of the previous fiscal year, March through June, and then we'll be taking applications once again for the period of July through December. And we utilize, hopefully, every penny of the funds allocated to us to help you, the people that need it most. Any questions? Call us at the office, 622-1975.
Okay, that completes Mike Espiritu, Roswell Chavis County Economic Development Commission. Just really quickly on just a couple things to cover with that as well is that for all of you out there, Mike, EDC is actually working with Chavis County and the city of Roswell. Okay. All right. We were having some feedback issues there as well too, and I'll talk about a little bit about the technology here in a second. But right now, Mike Espiritu is working with the city of Roswell and Chavis County. They are essentially going to broker all these relationships with our business community. So if you're a business out there and wanting to seek the CARES grant assistance, please contact the EDC and walk through that. If you contact the county and the city, that's all good. But if you contact him, there's some information that'll be required and needed in order to justify out the federal expenditures and everything. But just want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. Okay, as I mentioned early in the conversation, the technology is kind of interesting at times. There's a thing about everybody else's personal speakers on their computer as well as the city speakers. So we're walking through that. All of these videos will be placed out on the city's website as well too, so that they're accessible to you after the end of this, the public forum. And so don't worry about it. If you're not able to hear well enough right now, please go back and find the pieces that are important to you within this process. I'm going to try to change from Mike Espiritu over to Bill Morris, and he's going to talk a little bit more on the broader level of community development, so please bear with me.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Morris. I'm
And where do I go?
You just want to talk a little bit about.
I don't think I'm shared yet, though.
Okay. Starting about January. It has been a strange year, but the numbers are very interesting. With respect to new construction, single-family homes, we've actually put out 30 permits. Good afternoon. My name is Bill Morris. I'm your Community Development Director for the city of Roswell. Just want to talk a little bit about building permit activity over the last year, starting about January. It has been a strange year, but the numbers are very interesting. With respect to new construction, single-family homes, we've actually put out 30 permits. Typically in a year it's 50, so we're down a little bit on single-family, but given what we've gone through this year, it's still amazing. We've actually gone through some demos. We've also had a number of remodels, major remodels, people sitting at home that apparently decided they want to redo their house while they're there. And so we've issued like 60 permits for major redos. And there's also a number of other partial rehab and renovation permits out there for new windows, carports and insulation and all sorts of different kinds of permits. We are also waiting for the Spring River Apartments Phase 2 to be coming in, which would be a nice additional asset for the city. Overall, we've issued about 1,350 permits, all kinds, about 500 building permits, 400 electrical, 270 gas permits, and about 150 some electrical permits, all of it related to a lot of it to rehab. With respect to new commercial construction, we are currently we've issued permits for the new we call it the Firehouse Mall, the little strip center just north of the Roswell Daily Record building. Everybody should know where it is in town. We have offices going up at Country Club in Washington. We've got Blake's Burgers finishing up. They should be opening up in very, very good. We've got sporting goods that was issued and is all up and running. And then we've got several internal modifications within the downtown businesses. And we have some carryovers from permits issued last year. We have Fort Dion's, which is opened up next to Big R's, which is nice because that whole corridor is really looking good right now. We had Ashley Furniture that came in and is now up and running. We just finished up with Home 2. That's now open. And Landing Spot, which is the new mall at 2901 North Main, which has a Wingstop and Subway location in there. In addition to all of this, we are also discussing potential projects with other people, but we really can't talk about it because they're not official. They aren't official until somebody turns something in. So that's good because people are still looking at us and wanting to do business here in town. And for anybody interested in either building new construction of any type or have any other questions, all our contact information is available on the Community Development Department website, at the city's website at roswell.nm.gov. And just give us a call. Love to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, so that was Bill Morris talking about our current economic business events and everything. We have growth going on all over the city, which is really nice during these difficult times with what else all's happening. And I think it helps our city maintain through this difficult time. We're going to change one more video, and we're going to go into the Air Center. And with the Air Center, Scott Stark, our Air Center director, because this forum was a topical type forum, he's going to cover exactly where we're at with our current operations with the Air Center. And so I'm going to try to share the screen with that and see if we can make all that magic work. And here we go.
I'm Scott Stark, and I'm the Air Center Director. My job is to take care of everything at the Air Center. Basically, I am the guy who works in the city and makes sure that everything works well at the airport, both operationally, as we look at improving it, making sure all of those improvement projects go well, taking care of all of the people that work out there and the day-to-day operations. I want to talk to you tonight a little bit about the normal operations, the current operations of the Air Center. So we'll start with the basics. We'll start with the budget. There are three different parts to the budget. There's operations, there's personnel, and there's capital expenditures. Right now, the operations budget for this fiscal year is about $1.7 million. Personnel, we spend almost $900,000. And the capital expenditures, of course, are much higher because that's where the big money is spent. And that's a little bit over $4 million for the projects that we had planned this year. And in case you ever wondered how those projects come about, we go through a 5-year process of capital improvement planning that I'll talk about in a little more depth in just a moment. But all of the projects that we do go through that process. And so this year we'll be working through a couple of projects. Now that I mentioned the capital improvement plan, I want to talk to you about just a little bit about where that starts. It starts with one of our major relationships that we have with the airport, because our major regulator is Federal Aviation Administration. So this relationship has a few different pieces to it. The first of those pieces is our program manager. We work through an airport district office with a program manager, and one of the many things that we do is that capital improvement plan that I talked about just a couple of moments ago. The capital improvement plan begins in the fall. It's a year-long process, and we go through the possibilities of programs and projects that we want to do. We work toward a design, a bid, a grant award. In the end, what we wind up with a year later from where we started is a grant awarded to us by the FAA and a project that's been bid out to a contractor, and somewhere shortly after that we begin the project. So it takes about a year to work through each of these projects. We do them in parallel, so we may have several projects going at the same time, and they will wind up in the same year. This year we have two projects that are going to be on two of our taxiways that are getting refurbished, and part of our ramp area where we park the airplanes when they come in and land. Those things will be repair projects and remaking projects. The second part of the relationship that we have with the FAA program manager is the grants which I mentioned, and those are all managed internally between us and the FAA. And we, of course, spend the money on the projects, and then we go back and ask for reimbursement on those grants. The third piece is passenger facility charges, which we charge against our passenger tickets. Every passenger that gets on an airplane in Roswell pays $4.50 of that ticket to the city of Roswell for the infrastructure that we have at our airport. That goes to improve our terminal, it goes to fix our taxiways, it goes to repair things on the airport. So that's fairly nice. The other piece of the relationship with the FAA, there are three, is airport certification, which is for the commercial airline service. That's when an airport wants to have commercial airline service, they have to get a certification certificate from the FAA, and they have to meet certain criteria. So we met that criteria the first time in 1973, so we have been certified since 1973, held that certification all of that time, and there are certain requirements that we have to hold, and that's to maintain certification manual, emergency procedures. We have firefighting requirements, we have staffing requirements, we have a wildlife hazard management program so that we make sure that a deer doesn't wander out onto the runway and a plane hits it. So we have to do things to fence them out and to maybe to trap them, relocate them, and those type of things. So those are the type of things that we do all the time. And the last of that part 139 part is regular inspections. My staff does a regular inspection every day at the airport. We inspect every piece of pavement and every sign and every marking on the airport. We inspect the external parts of the airport as well, the fence and the area around the airport. And then we also have a once a year annual inspection that the FAA does. They send out an inspector, they do the same thing, all of those same things, and they tell us what we're doing well, or if we're not, where we need to do. The last piece of our relationship with the FAA is compliance. And that's mostly related to how we spend our money, how we structure our staff and how we do our airports. There are 39 grant assurances that we agree to every time we execute a grant with the FAA. And so they come and they make sure that we're compliant with those grant assurances. And the other piece for us that's a little unique that other airports don't have, we inherited this airport from the U.S. military, from the Air Force in 1967. So there's a law from 1944 called the Surplus Property Act that we fall under because that land was surplus to us. So we have that piece of compliance in addition to the grant assurances that we have to comply with. So our compliance manager makes sure that we're compliant and tells us if we're not. But moving on to the commercial aeronautical operations at the airport, there are four pieces to that: air service, aircraft maintenance and repair, research and development. So air service is behind the scenes. When you drive up and park in front of the terminal, get on an airplane and you go away, that's what's obvious. In 2019, we had 60,217 passenger airplanes at Roswell. That makes us a small what we have had over the years is a growth trend since we started the jet flights in 2007 to Dallas. It's picked up a bit. With Phoenix, we had 25% year-over-year growth for 2 years after we added the Phoenix flight. But for the last few years, we had around 5% per year of growth. In this last year, in 2019, we had 6.3% of growth in our passengers. I know that's a lot of numbers to throw out there, but the point of my saying all of that is that we are successful. Our passenger service is successful in growing in Roswell. I want to thank everyone who has bought a ticket and got on an airplane during Roswell. The one place that we still have left to grow is in that area. Why does someone who live in the Roswell area, 37% of them buy a ticket and they get on a plane in Roswell. Anywhere between 63 and 64% get on a plane so they'll drive to El Paso to get on the plane. When we look at growing the airline service here in Roswell and being able to provide extra service, extra destinations, extra airplanes, extra flights, that piece of the market that we're primarily looking at, we call that leakage when they go out to another airport to leave from this area. So that 63% is our immediate addressable market. COVID has, of course, slowed that down and push our calendar back, but we're looking at adding United, as many of you have heard, and with a flight to Denver. We believe that we'll pick up a large piece of that, the addressable markets that we're missing, as well as people that right now will get in their car and drive the 7.5 hours to Denver if that's their destination. We'll pick up some of that as well. So the future of the air service in Roswell looks good once we get past this COVID pandemic. When we first got into the pandemic in March and things started getting locked down, we saw an extreme drop in our passenger numbers. We lost 95% of our passengers during that time. And that stayed that way through May and maybe into the beginning of June, and then it began to pick back up again. As everyone remembers, we started opening things back up in June. And at that time, some of the restrictions began to relax and the passengers started showing up again. But at the same time, our flight numbers had been cut from 3 Dallas flights a day and 1 Phoenix flight a day down to where it is now, where we only have 1 Dallas flight a day. But that Dallas flight is producing 60% of the passenger planes that we had last year in August. So we are recovering. So the second piece that I mentioned was the aircraft maintenance repair. At this time, we have 4 of those companies working in Roswell. We have AirSail, Kalu Airspace, and General Airframe Support. As of yesterday, there are 480 airliners stored on our airport, mostly as a result of the COVID pandemic. That's for Roswell, the silver lining of this pandemic. That is a huge economic driver to bring those airplanes in. Every aircraft that we have stored on our airport, the airlines, makes us a parking fee every day. There are 3 tiers. There's a $7 tier for the lowest weight. There's a middle of the road $10 tier, and there's a $14 tier for the heaviest aircraft. That will be changing in January. We've gone to a new fee schedule that is more reflective of the airplanes that we are now storing because airplanes have gotten so much bigger. The largest weight really doesn't reflect the size of aircraft that we're storing. So the new system will be predicated on an FAA breakdown system that has 6 categories. You don't just park them, take them up and leave them. They require weekly and monthly maintenance. So that brings jobs to these tenants that are on the airport, these MROs, the maintenance, repair, and overhaul companies. They have added somewhere between 150 and 200 jobs to their ranks at this point, and there probably will be more. We look at probably more aircraft coming in to the point that we actually had to start turning them away. Right now, we can probably still hold about another 100 aircraft. Another piece that I mentioned was research and development. The big white canvas hangar on the northwest corner of the airport, that sky, agencies are researching high altitude planes, and every year it has the ability to look at 5,000 and stay there for long periods of time. So, without getting into everything too terribly much, if you can imagine anything that would go on a low or stabilized satellite, that would be the same work that would be done from this plane. The other thing that we have regularly is flight testing. I'm sure if you look at Roswell any period of time, you've seen a lot of jets out of Roswell from Boeing, from Cessna, the Citation jets, from Bombardier, from Mitsubishi, from Beech, from Raytheon, and I could go on and on. Basically, every commercial airplane that has been made in America has been tested at Roswell at one time. So that is still a large piece of what we do. Those aircraft companies come out several times a year, and they test at our airport because we have a unique runway that's 13,000 feet long and it's uncrewed. So it meets testing criteria that they have to use. Otherwise, they would have to go somewhere else in the world to do that testing. And the fourth and last piece of our business is flight training. The civilian flight training is a very much smaller piece of that. We have several different folks that have come through over the years. Right now, with one private company that's doing flight training, the other piece that we get every day is the military that still uses us out of all the Air Force bases from about 500 miles away. They come by every day and they do touch and goes. And so we're happy to see them having to support our military. What are we going to do in the future? What are we going to look like 5-10 years down the road? Well, that's actually planned out, not really to the T, to the point where we know exactly what building is going where. But what we do have is we have a master plan. It's required by the FAA. It was developed in 2012. It's 368 pages long, and I will not go into all of that. But basically, anything about this community, about the airport, about the business, about the aviation side of things, it's all contained in that master plan. And one of the most important pieces of it is that it outlines what we will do with in the future with the land. So it lets us know where we're planning to put certain pieces of our on the land that we own. And we own over 4,000 acres at the air center. When we look at where a hangar might go, when we look at where a factory might go, we start snapping this document. And that helps us stay organized in our future and things develop and organized and planned. So it's literally our master plan. It's our document that we use as our Bible. And it's scheduled to be updated again in 2022. So about every 10 years we update it. And I appreciate your attention. I hope I've been informative tonight, and thanks for joining us.
Okay, let me see if I can stop sharing for a second. Thank you, everybody. I apologize for the speaker issues. We're having a feedback between the video speakers and through the computer, but all three of these presentations will be placed out onto the city's website as well. Very informative information, very important to make sure that we talk about all those different things. Moving through the next portion of where we are at, if I can get to the point where we can share the slide here. And hopefully we're going to share the screen. All right. The last piece I wanted to make sure we covered within this, and you'll listen to me and you'll see some of these slides as we walk through the rest of this. Just a little less than a month ago, the City Council and the County Commission helped initiate an authority steering committee. And for those of you that aren't aware of it, 2 years ago, the EDC established a task force approved by the city and the county in order to seek new legislation for the potential of a regional air center authority. That they were successful within the second year of that legislation. And so what we are doing now is that we now have put together a new group of business leaders that the city and the county manager have selected to look at all the information, to look at our options what can we do with the Air Center in order to improve the process and look at the authority to see if it works for us. If I can get the slide to change, there we go. Primary airport operation structures. We believe that the statute, which are the laws of the state, allow for 4 different types of airport operational structures. I'm showing you these because our Blue Ribbon Task Force, our group that is looking at this, these 10 business leaders, are considering all the information, all the way back to the indenture document when we took over the base from the federal government and bringing it all the way forward. But statutorily, there's essentially 4 primary airport operational structures. And I provide this information to you so that if you are one that wants to go out and do the research on your own, you can look at all these different versions. So the municipal airport one that is up in the left top corner, it follows statute chapter 3, article 39. This is essentially our current operations of the Air Center. And it's the current process that puts the city, it's obligated by the city, funded by the city. We have general obligation and revenue bonding capabilities. And then the federal assurances for when the federal money, when the federal government grants money to the city, that's where the federal assurances come from the city itself. If you walk down to the one on the left that's at the bottom, and we're just going to go in the statutory chapters, this is the new Regional Air Center Authority language, and that's chapter 5, article 20. This allows for a Regional Air Center Authority. It's an appointed body of individuals. I put down that it's responsible to the city and the county, but it could be the surrounding communities around us as well too. The Air Center would then become managed by an appointed body. They do have the ability for bonding of revenue bonds only. If we were to look at doing general obligation bonds, that will still have to return to the elected bodies of the city, county, or any of the other entities that are there. The federal assurances are, as far as we can determine right now, they would follow what the authority's federal assurances are within that scope of what that is. Up in the right corner, the right side at the top corner there is the Economic Advancement District. And this is in Chapter 6, Section 19. This establishes an independent elected body. This independent elected body has the ability to set a tax rate on the operation of a regional district. It does have the ability for bonding of the general obligation and revenue. It also provides federal assurances through that district. So if a vote was to establish a district underneath the Economic Advancement District, it would allow everybody that voted to be a part of that, whether it be all of Chaves County, whether it be even larger than Chaves County, to have a role in managing the elected body that operates the Air Center. Down at the bottom on the right side is what's called the Joint Powers Agreements, and that's Chapter 11, Article 1. And right now, currently, the city and the county have a joint powers agreement with the dispatch service. So the employees are all city employees, but the city and the county are sharing the expenses of operating a dispatch center that helps all of Roswell, all of Chaves County, including Hagerman, Dexter, and it brings all of these together underneath one umbrella of the joint powers agreement. We could do the same thing with the Air Center of a joint powers agreement and change the structure a little bit where the responsibility falls between the city and the county, and it's established by a contractual relationship between whoever the entities are within those joint powers. But these are the primary airport operational structures that everybody is looking at. Our whole group of 10 business leaders, they're looking at this information. They're reviewing all the legislation, all this work that our Economic Development Commission Task Force managed with the legislation. They're looking at all the indenture documents. They're looking at what the city is doing currently. We're walking all the way through that process to determine what is the best look for this asset that we have. And I will tell you that while there's differences of opinion as to how we get there, there's not been one individual that hasn't said that this asset of the Air Center is very important to our future economic development and our economic growth. And we believe that it is going to be important to us now and in the future. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about that, because we are meeting. We have 6 months with the business leaders to provide a report back to the city council and the county commissioners as to what their suggestions are as to where we're headed. Okay, moving on, and we'll keep everything as brief as we can now with those videos because of their importance. I have a few other things here. We received this question off of SurveyMonkey when we were putting together this presentation. This individual says excess of budget spending on projects that are not a city priority. First thing that they put in there was there won't be any air service. So why is there 2.5 million needed to work on Air Center Terminal and 2 million for the RAC ramp? This individual, I don't know if it's a gentleman, goes on to say there's 1.1 million for the Nancy Lopez Golf Course that isn't used by the entire population and can continue operation as is until more money is available. This individual, of course, says these things can be put on hold. They are not a priority for the city at this time. Wait. I wanted to talk a little bit about this because first off, I'm not sure where the information has come with those numbers. I believe it is off of our master capital project list, which is a very large list of projects. Currently, the city has no intentions of doing any additional work of improvements to the Nancy Lopez Golf Course. And so I'm not sure if this is older information or not. I will argue the point on the first piece there with this slide that there won't be any air service. When American came out and said that they were going to cancel service within the city of Roswell, that initiated our elected leadership, Mayor Kintai, President of the County Commission, Will Cavan. We brought all these individuals together very quickly, and American changed their mind about closing off the service to Roswell. I don't agree with the statement that there won't be any air service. I believe that we're in this little flux because of the COVID pandemic responses and everything, and trying to get business back to normal as soon as we can. I believe that there's going to continue to be air service here. I believe that, as Scott Stark had mentioned, the Dallas flights have always been strong. The flights to Phoenix actually got to the level where American no longer needed a minimum rate guarantee to continue those flights, and that was pre-COVID. And we have some serious consideration for opening up the flights for a flight to Denver from Roswell. Now, with that, I believe that air service will continue for Roswell, and I believe that our leadership will assure that they do everything in order to keep the air service coming, because that is a good way for us to get into the world. But I will also talk about the money that is being spent on the Air Center Terminal and even the ramp, especially the ramp. Our air center is bigger than just the commercial service of people taking commercial flights out of here. We have MRO operations, which are maintenance and repair operations out there. It is an asset of its own, where this business is actually growing on its own. And so I believe that understand that we need to feed that asset in order to keep it viable for that future. And I think that's one of the keys that we have within this process. So I just wanted to address those things. I think that we do struggle all the time. We appreciate the input as well. I think that when we look at capital projects, of course, it is all based upon the revenue that we receive and the revenue that we have available. And of course, we have 10 city councilors that make that determination as to what that priority is. Your input as a public member to those elected officials help make that process going. I don't think we always agree on that stuff, and I think that's the thing that you need to understand. The system that we utilize, it's a simple majority off that council as to how we move forward and as we go. I see in our chat box that there was a comment made that there should always be a name for the questions or complaints. I would agree that it would be helpful because I would love to give back a full response to whoever has the concern. I think the challenge we have with that is that we really like to hear these questions asked for, and we can adjust that where at least there's the option to provide that information, because we would like to express a longer conversation with some of this, because I think the numbers on here come from our master plan, and we have approximately $37 million worth of projects we're looking at for next year. And in the city of Roswell, we average between $40 and $60 million of projects. A lot of those are water and sewer. A lot of those are solid waste projects, but some of them come out of that general fund, which is where the golf course comes from. The air center comes from a different fund altogether. So please bear with us as we go through that. We appreciate the question, but that was a related public forum question to our topic of today. Here's some other public forum questions that we received, and I have them listed here. We're not going to cover them in a lot of detail tonight, but I wanted to make sure you understood, because again, you asked the question, we're going to respond. Garden Street, why is Garden Street still closed? It's been at least a year. North Garden Street closure, when will the street open? Those were some questions received on Garden Street. I know our Louis Nahar, our city engineer, has put out various information out on Facebook and everything, trying to make sure everybody understands. This was a series of projects that happened on Garden Street. It started with a water line replacement on the southern end of the Garden Street, and now we're into a bridge replacement on the Garden Street. COVID did have an impact on our overall time frame, but it is moving forward. And again, we're going to do this street right. Our city engineer make sure that we talk about all these different pieces. And I believe that that's one thing I want to make sure. But Louis Nahar, our city engineer, the city of Roswell, we're going to put out a separate piece on the Garden Street so that it brings everybody up to speed with the timeline and how things shifted as we went through this project. The problem is that when you find more things wrong with the street, you want to take care of them while you're there, so that we can get off the street and we don't have to come back for a long time after we get done with that. Question on the rec center: why did we spend so much money to make the recreation center that looks like it was built in the 80s? I will say that part of that was intentional. If you look at the rec center itself as it's built right now, it has that the top part of it. It's supposed to look like a flight tower, which was the rec center was built on the old Cielo Grande. It's the Cielo Grande Park now, but it is built on the old municipal airport, and so it was a nod back to what we were. And so it goes back to our past a little bit. And we wanted to recognize that past, because as we move to the future, I believe that Midwestern qualities and everything, we appreciate the past, and the past shows us our path to the future. And so some of the construction of that was intentional in order to give it that look of what that property was for a long time prior to the base closing back in 1967. Animal control, there was a question asked about the status of animal services offering spay and neuter. We are still in the process of building an operating center at the animal control shelter. It hasn't been completed yet. We have found that there are some legal requirements that we have to run through in order to operate that, the ability to spay and neuter within that structure. It has to meet certain veterinary quality level of use. And so we are working on that. We just haven't made it there yet, because as we've learned more about this process, there's some extra pieces. But we continue with that because we believe that is a way to help cut down on some of that out of control population of our dogs and cats within the city. The adult center, when will the Roswell Adult Center be open again? We have a number of services that haven't completely opened. The library is just reopening and everything. We are getting ready to reopen the museum, the Roswell Arts Museum, the Museum and Art Center. We haven't opened it yet because we have been updating the fire protection system. And so it's on hold for just a little bit until the contractor can get their work done. It looks like we're going to be about the mid of October before we can get that open. We're excited to get the museum back open, allow everybody to go over there, see the new exhibits from our Roswell artists and residence programs and everything. So we're moving that way. The adult center is on track to be opened in mid-October. What we intend to do is it's not going to be open for classwork or coursework until we can get a better response from the state as far as the mass gatherings or how many people we can put into a room, because the adult center does serve some of our most important population base, and that have the worst case if they were to contract the COVID-19 virus. So we want to make sure we protect our senior citizens. And so we are looking at trying to get it open back up so that at least individuals can get in there, play a little pool, play some dominoes, do some things with that, because again, we want to make sure it works very well for us to just check in with that group and make sure that everything is going well. So those were some public forum questions. The Garden Street we're going to go off of. I did not add one on here that I will mention. There was a question about the crime in the city, and I think that is one that we are getting ready. We're going to bring the police chief in. We're going to talk a lot about what we are doing in the background, what we're doing out there at all times in order to try to do that. We believe that crime is an issue of its own that really deserves some time to explain what all we're doing as the city is related, and how you as the public can help us improve our response to the crime as an issue for our city. Just a couple brief little announcements there. Keep in mind that the census is coming down. Right now, I know there's a deadline for September 30th. I know that there's some questions in the court system that it may get kicked to October. We need everybody to fill out that census. The impact is measurable as to if we don't have everybody to fill out their census. I know they're going door to door now, so but you can still always go online, get this work done. So I'm just putting a shout out. Marcos Nava with the Hispano Chamber has been the champion of our chair, and he's done a fantastic job, but he needs your help. Get out there, get the census done, help us help you with making sure that those federal dollars that we pay in our income tax, we pay to the federal government every year, that get back to our community so that we can help our community grow. And so the census is very important for that. Some CDC guidelines, just to remind you, we are not out of the pandemic yet. I know the governor had a press release today. It looks like she's getting very comfortable with where everything is moving. So I believe we're going to be opening up our pools a little bit farther. They are going to be controlled by the number of individuals at a time. But I heard today that we're going to be allowed to go pick pumpkins. So that's always good as well too. But I think the thing is that keep in mind, I think the approach that Roswell has had since day one with this is that this becomes a personal responsibility issue. And that if you follow these guidelines that are out there, washing your hands, avoiding close contact, covering your mouth and nose with a mask when others are around, cover coughs and sneezes, monitor yourself daily. If you are not feeling well, please stay home and don't take that chance with us. Clean and disinfect. These guidelines haven't changed through the last 5 to 6 months of this. I just remind you that I really believe it comes down to personal responsibility, and if you follow this, it keeps everybody safer. I think that we have all different opinions out there as to how the state should respond, how the federal government should respond. I believe firmly that it is a personal responsibility that everybody should be responding to some level. And I just share these with you, these guidelines, so that you remind you that it's very simple to do, and it goes from where we're starting. I think the numbers that we are seeing We're not seeing any big
Stop.
uptick,
Stop.
but I think we're starting to see that information come. Just this is something that we had put out earlier, a reminder, wipe down these surfaces. I think it was really interesting when I thought about it, and it was reported to us by the doctors out there. Gas pumps, everybody touches a gas pump. They are not the cleanest as with that. Grocery carts, I think you saw the changes with Walmart, Target, everybody that has a grocery cart, they are cleaning them differently. Light switches, doorknobs, toilets, faucets, desks, and everything, phones. Be aware of these areas. Make sure you're carrying those wipes with you. Make sure you're protected as we go through that. As I come into this last slide, I will remind everybody that is still online, if you have another question that you'd like to try to respond to today, please use that chat function. Send me the question in the next couple minutes here, and we'll try to respond to those. As I said earlier, I know that we had a little bit of a sound issue with the videos, but all of this information will be put out onto the website. It'll be available for your review, so you can go in a little bit more detail. We were pleased to have Mike Espiritu from Roswell, Chaves County come in, give an update. Of course, on that overall information for what is happening with our business license, and then of course Scott Stark with our Air Center information. I'm not seeing any additional.
Listening to Joe. Listening to Joe and going nuts.
And so I just want to remind you that this is our attempt at trying to get more information out to you. Wish to receive a response or explanation on this topic, please reach out directly to the city. Email us at info@roswell-inm.gov. Call the city hall. Use the Survey Monkey. Use social media and the website, the Fix-It form at roswell-inm.gov. And I'm getting texts as we go through this because there's a little bit of feedback on that. But please, everybody, reach out to us, let us know. We're going to continue these forums. We're going to continue the outreach. We believe that video is a good way to get our professionals online so that you can hear from them directly. But let us know where we can help. And at that, I don't see any other. I do see a couple comments about muting the microphones, and it looks like it may be my family that has their microphone on. It should be muted. I'm hearing that it was my dog that helped participate in the public forum. So
Sorry.
No, so we'll walk through all of that. But thank you for your time. We'll continue to put this information out to you. And I see one that's there. I would like to know more about what helped American Airlines agree to extend the service. What we will do, Erica, is that let me put some additional information together, and we'll put that call out as well too. What was really interesting is that American went out with 15, with the closure of 15 different airports. Roswell was the only one out of that 15 that wasn't determined as an essential air service, an EAS. There was two other air centers in Iowa, and I don't remember where the other one was. They were required by federal law to keep the services running for there. Roswell was the only one that was able to save its service within there. There was a number of people that I would give a thank you to. I know that Mayor Kintai was on the phone the night that we heard. I know that the EDC members, the county came on board. Everybody was talking. We actually had phone calls up to the vice president's office as well too. And we believe, I know that Mayor Kintai has given credit to the deputy city manager, Mike Matthews, for bringing in Flexi, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Academy down in Artesia, because they rely heavily upon moving people in and out through our air center. And I'll let me put a group together. Let me talk to public affairs about giving better information on that. That is a lot more detailed than just me kind of talking off the cuff on this. but I think it was the power of our community that I believe that had a lot to do with that. And we are hearing some good information about that. And I think there's a lot of people that stepped to the plate that helped us with that. Any other questions or comments on from our crowd on the chat column? At this point in time, I know we've been on for a little while here. Looks like about an hour. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. Again, drop us an email, drop us a phone call, try to get us the information somehow, and we're going to try to help you wherever we can. So again, thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. We'll continue to work on our technology because I believe we're going to be doing this into the future, and I think it's a good thing in order to help get word out. Have a good evening. Have a safe evening. Thank you again, everybody, for that. I'm going to sign off now. Take care.